Hello and welcome back to Firestorm Games and part 2 of our look at the Burning of Prospero, which is the second Horus Heresy box set. In the first video we looked exclusively at the miniatures that you get in this set, but this time we'll be looking at some of the game tiles, the dice and also the cards and the rulebooks that you get in the set, which actually makes up the miniatures game itself. So let's get started by first of all taking a look at the rulebooks. So first of all, we have the rulebook, and inside here it explains exactly how to play the Burning of Prospero game. Now it's a full colour rulebook, as you'll see when we're flicking through the page. It's got lots of nice photography of the miniatures that you get in this book, and everything is explained really nicely. All the rules are very nicely laid out, as you can see. We've got these individual boxes here to pick out key points of the rules, and also some of the actual elements of the game are diagrammed, as you can see here. And let's flick through, we have the enumeration phase, which is where all psychic powers are conducted, and it's one of the major mechanics of this game. The traitor legions, the Thousand Sons in this case, being the ones who are going to be perpetrating those abilities, and the space wolves are going to be defending against them. Now we have movement phases here, attack phases, line of sight, all fairly standard stuff, which is kind of 40k stuff that you would expect to play on a tabletop, but kind of condensed down onto a board game. So instead of moving distance in inches, you'll move so many tiles. As you can see here, we've got some scenarios as well. And there's 6 scenarios altogether, and each of them has a diagram which explains how to set up your players, your opponent's players, and also the tiles and any obstructions. It also gives you a few special rules and objectives, things like that. And each of them, as the games progress, get steadily bigger. I think the powers, the psychic powers that the Thousand Sons can use get stronger as well, which represents the intensiveness of the fighting. Now, the final one is quite an interesting battle, because as you play off the board, essentially what's happening in the background is the duel between Russ and Magnus, and depending on who's winning, then that will give certain bonuses to the Space Wolves or the Thousand Sons. On the back here we have a small section describing how you can play all through the scenarios as a campaign instead of them being played individually. And on the back here we just have a little bit of a reference book. So that's the first rule book looked at. Let's look at the second one. Now the second book isn't so much a rule book, it's more of a background. Instead of all being mixed into a single rule book, as we've seen in previous times, all of the background about the Horus Heresy in general, and also the events leading up to Prospero, and actually the Burning of Prospero itself, all described in here. We get some rundown of the equipment and also these nice diagrams and artwork that you've already seen if you've looked at any of the Forge World books. You can see here they're very much a standard feature. So we've got the Custodians, the Sisters of Silence. We have some sections that talk about the different cults of the Thousand Sons and Azek Ahriman himself, and then also the Thousand Sons Tartarus Terminators, and also the Tactical Legionaries as well. At the back we just have essentially adverts as to what you can kind of expand your knowledge of the Horus Heresy. We've got the Horus Heresy books, the 2 main actual Horus Heresy storybooks, which is the Thousand Sons and also Prospero Burns as well. Great books as well. So that's the background book looked at. Let's look at some of the data sheets. So here we have the 2 data sheets you'll be using when playing Burning of Prospero. You get the Loyalist profile sheet for the Space Wolves and the Traitor profile sheet for the Thousand Sons as well. And they're pretty much the same on this side. You've got the Legion Veterans, the Veteran Sergeants, the same on this section here. And all of their weapons are listed here with what types of dice you use, as we'll be touching on later. There are different D6s, D8s, things like that in the game, and also some D10s as well. So those are the war gear. We've also got the armor value of that particular unit, and also the stamina as well. I mean, how much damage they can take before they fall. And then we've got things like the special characters. So we've got Geiger Falhand here. We've got Azek Ahriman. If I flip these over, you can see we've got the Legio Custodes and also the Silent Sisterhood as well. And over here we have the Tartarus Terminators. So these are very nice and clear, very simple, straightforward to look at. Each player has one of these and can use it for easy reference when playing the game. The rules have very much been stripped down, very simplified for anyone who's just looking for a nice pickup game that they can get started playing straight away. So that's the data sheets looked at. Let's look at some of the cards in this. In Burning of Prospero, we get 3 main types of cards. We get the Warp Charge cards, the Psychic cards, and also the Willpower cards as well. Now these work in the enumeration phase, and this is where psychic powers are cast. Now the Thousand Sons player, the Traitor Legion player, can cast 3 psychic powers per turn, and they don't have to cast all of them, they can cast as many as they want. Now each time they cast a psychic power, which will be one of these cards here, each of them has different effects. You can also see each of them is linked to a different cult as you can see just at the top there. So you'll be limited to using certain powers in certain games. Now, whenever a Thousand Suns player wishes to cast one of these, they will draw 3 of the cards from the Warp Charge deck. And let's say we've got 3 cards here. And then they can choose some of the actions. So for example, they can choose the Warp Charge here, or they can choose the special rules that are listed on the bottom here. So they get a few different options, but essentially what you do is you can add up the number of Warp Charge that you've drawn, compare it to the Space Wolf player or the Loyalist Legion, who also draws 3 cards, like so. We add up the amount of cards that we have here, and that essentially gives us who's going to win. So if the Space Wolf player has the highest number of total value from their 3 cards, then the psychic effect is nullified. However, if the Thousand Sun player actually wins, then the psychic power is in effect. It's a nice little additional mechanic that's not too difficult to understand, and it's quite nice. It opens up doors for different things to happen, as you don't always know which card you're going to be drawing, and each of these cards also has different effects on there depending on which card you draw as well. So you can see we've got some just generic ones listed in here as well. So that's the cards looked at. Let's take a look at some of the dice and then also the tiles. So here we have the dice and tiles that are used. So here we have the dice and the tiles that are used in the Burning of Prospero. Now, the first thing you'll notice about the dice is we don't just have D6s, we also have some D10s, we have a D12 there, and also some D8s as well. So a range of different dice. You notice they're in different colours as well. So we've got the grey and white for the Space Wolf player, and the red and white for the Thousand Suns player there. So moving on to the tiles, we have these cardstock tiles, and these are also double-sided, and these will go on to represent the city of Tizca, which is on Prospero, which is where the Space Wolves attacked. And there's lots of different designs on here. So we've got this kind of white marble hall. You can see a Thousand Suns helmet there. Lots of interesting details on here, and we've got this pretty much destroyed Imperial Aquila there, and you can see the lava running through, and we've also got this Eye of Zeech as well. Now each of these sections are what you use for moving around. So this would be a section here, this is another section, this is a section, this is a section, like so on. A lot more like the Overkill box set that we looked at previously, rather than the Betrayal at Calth tiles, which are all hexagonal. Lots of different styles on these tiles. So we have again a hall here, and if I flip this over you can see we have some generic tiles on the ground, but they have some more specific rooms. So we've got this one here, which is like a throne room or a summoning circle, and then over the other side as well you can see we've got more damaged sections of tile. Now right at the bottom here, I believe, and just flip this over, you can see we've got this section here which is more like a sprue, and it features these counters, these portal tokens. We've got a statue of the Emperor, I believe, and then I think on the other side we've got a statue of Magnus, and various different obstacles as well that you can use for building up your playing area when you're playing Burning of Prospero. So that's the dice, the tiles, the cards, and the rulebooks all looked at. Let's get an overall summary for the Burning of Prospero. So that concludes our look at the gaming contents of Burning of Prospero. Now, if you haven't already seen part 1 where we looked at the miniatures, do check that out as we look at all the individual miniatures you get inside this box set. Now, as I stated in the previous video, even without the actual board game aspect of this set, it is an incredible value for money. Just the 30 Tactical Marines and the Dreadnoughts will actually make the value of this box set far exceed the £95 RRP. However, you can actually pick it up for even less than that. So you can actually get it for $79.99 over on the Firestorm Games web store, which I'll pop a link to in the description below. Now, if you enjoyed this unboxing, please do let us know in the comments below, and also subscribe to be kept up to date with all of our future videos. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Firestorm Games.